You're listening to The Blind Chick, an AfterSight original podcast. We're telling you stories about strength, overcoming hurdles, and living experiences. We see who you really are. Blindness can be an adventure. Are you ready for the journey of a lifetime? We are.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Blind Chick. That's Moses Street.
And that's Penn Street.
Wow.
The Blind Chick. Lightning. Thunder.
Wah, wah, wah.
I had to do a bigger one because Penn just got, for the third year in a row, an international podcast award.
Dun, dun, dun.
And I'll let her talk about it because I don't remember why she got it.
Even though you were there. Yeah. So it's not Penn Street, it is AfterSight, and it definitely, a lot of the kudos go to our podcast producer, Jonathan Price. That's where the lightning and explosions should happen. But yeah, we were recognized again for the top show from the IWIS, which is a international organization that make sure that audio is accessible to everybody. And yeah, we, for the third year in the row, the category was on location, and we took it. And this year, which would have been 2024, because they do the previous year, was for our Shine Festival live interviews back last summer. So yeah, super exciting. And speaking about summer and excitement, coming up on September 13th here in Colorado, I think it's our 5th year already, is our annual audio trekker hike. And for any of you who were there last year, it's going to be on the same trail above beautiful Boulder, Colorado. It's an incredible event. We make it accessible for anybody who's blind or low vision, and even you sightlings out there. We definitely welcome you. But we provide trek poles, and even if it's your very, very first hike, you've never hiked before, this is a great, great trail, great experience, because we give you all the support you want or need. But if you don't need anything, that's great too. If you are a pro hiker like some of you are, but it's I think it was deemed the largest amount of blind and low vision hikers on a trail at one time. And so we're super excited. Check it out at aftersight.org/events, /hike. But if you just go to aftersight.org, you'll find us. So we hope to see you there.
And I want to add to that, because going back to the award first, it's you guys, it's you people out there listening. Yes. And which goes along that Penn and I have been learning this lesson in our travels this last month, is that, like in Colorado, there's 100,000 plus people with legally blind, and nobody knows it because we're not out there. We're not being seen. And you guys, as part of this podcast, you're making it possible for more and more people to be seen. And then tying it into the hike, come to the hike. I mean, if you just hang out at the picnic area and scarf up all the great food that's there, you're there. We're seeing. And we got to get out and we got to get seen. And thank you so much for listening to The Blind Chick.
Yes.
Or else I just have a pathetic existence working on my computer. Anyway.
Well, let's get started.
Paul's going to fall asleep.
I know. Paul, are you still there?
Paul, wake up.
Today we have a really neat guest, Paul Martz, and he is a Coloradoan, and he has an awesome adventure tale about solving the Rubik's Cube, and he's written a book about it. He's also done code writing. He's a music playing force of nature, which we're going to dive into that. Paul was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, RP for short, at the early age of 13. He has really made it possible in the accessibility reward. Boy, I blew that one. But he's really raising the bar for blind and low vision people in the creative and Gosh, I cannot say accessibility. I almost called it excessive sexy. That could be a new term. But he's an author, writer, blogger. He's just this really incredible guy, and what a great opportunity for us here at Aftersight to get to capture part of your journey. Paul, welcome to The Blind Chick.
Thank you, Penn. Thanks so much. What an introduction! Wow, I'm blushing. And but congrats back to both of you and to Aftersight for that award victory, and very well deserved in my opinion. You guys put out a lot of amazing content for the blind community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, you bet. So, well, this is so the first part is like, you're in your teens and you're living your life, and all of a sudden you get this diagnosis, which is so many people out there know is not a diagnosis you would want. How did you deal with it? How did it shape your early life?
It was really interesting as a young child with a very mild vision impairment to learn that I was going to eventually lose all of my eyesight and be totally blind.
Wow.
I remember being in the doctor's office with my mom when the ophthalmologist gave me the diagnosis. And I remember kind of looking around the room going, this isn't what I thought it would be like to be blind. And at the same time, I have to let you know that I have X-linked retinitis pigmentosa. It runs in my family. It's very common. And I remember going to several family reunions as a child. And my mom would introduce me to her blind uncle or her blind aunt or blind cousins that were there at the family reunion. And what I saw as a young child is blindness did not stop you from getting out there and living your life and having friends and relatives and socializing. So I had that very positive role model at an early age.
Oh, that's good.
That's not to say that once my symptoms started becoming more severe that it didn't hit me hard. It did hit me hard. Yeah. In my early 20s, I was in college at University of Michigan, and I discovered quite profoundly that not being able to see in low lighting conditions was going to impact my ability to socialize. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I could solve that problem really easy by using a cane when the lighting got dim, right? But not at that point in my life. I wasn't ready to. My own ego couldn't handle it. The peer pressure wouldn't let me do it.
Right.
So it was a time of depression for me. And my parents saw that I was struggling. It was reflected in my grades. They got me some counseling that really helped. And what I think the counseling taught me about my eyesight was that I'm still a valid human being, whether I've got an eye problem or not.
Yeah. Boy, is that the truth. I know, to me, it's like when I'm talking to sightlings, it's like when you're talking on a phone, you're blind. But nothing changed. You still have your brilliance. You still have your memories. You still have your intellect. You still have your personality. You still have it all. And it is kind of mind-boggling, the disconnect that sightlings have towards people who can't see as well.
Yep, I would agree with that. The sighties, as I call it, because we're the blindies, so they're the sighties.
That should go on a T-shirt.
So college proceeded pretty well. I went out into the working world. I started working as a computer programmer. I was in my early 30s. I was working up at Hewlett-Packard in Fort Collins, as a matter of fact, when I had a couple of scenarios, situations, mishaps. I don't know what you'd call it. You're walking down a hallway, you round a corner, and you slam right into a coworker. What do you call that? Mishap.
An adventure, right?
Yeah. That would be a come online.
And it wasn't just one incident. It was a string of 2 or 3 of them, all in the span of a couple of weeks. And I realized,
so Paul, you weren't using your cane you were still not using your cane even.
I was not.
Oh, okay.
This was when I realized I had to use the cane. And so that was when I really came out as a blind person and started using a cane. And that was really tough because a lot of people didn't understand it.
Yeah.
So you're using a cane, but you're not blind, right? And it's like, right, yeah, just like if I was hearing impaired and I put in a pair of hearing aids to hear better, I wouldn't be totally deaf, would I? I would just be hearing impaired.
Right. Good comparison.
That's a great way to look at that.
Yeah,
and then when you embrace the cane, do you really feel like that's when? Do you think that things did get better, like as far because you weren't hiding it, or were you still struggling?
Definitely. The cane kind of parts the Red Sea when you're walking down the hallway.
Yes,
it's really, it's quite amazing to have. And I had enough eyesight that I could watch people getting out of my way. And I'm like, thank you, appreciate it. But I would be reluctant to use the word embrace in my relationship with my cane because a few years later I was laid off. There was a company-wide layoff at HP, and I was one of the casualties. So I had to find a new job. And my decision then was, after having used the cane for 4 or 5 years in the workplace, did I walk into an interview carrying a cane? Because I needed a job, and I did not want to give them an excuse due to some kind of impartiality or preconceived notion or whatever. I didn't want to give them any excuse to not hire me. Right. So I did not. I faked it. I went in, walked slowly, carefully, looked around, scanned. I did all those things we do as people with tunnel vision, right? And I got through the interview, and I got the job, and I went to the workplace, and it was a small office, and I opted to not use my cane in the small office because I felt comfortable enough that I didn't think I needed. It was a very different environment from Hewlett-Packard, which was thousands of square feet.
Right.
Yeah.
So did you disclose at any point or at some point?
Everyone at that company knew I had a vision impairment and I didn't drive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But they didn't know that I had been using a cane previously.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I think that journey when you go so long without using a cane and then all of a sudden you use it, I think it changes not only how you look at yourself, but also how others look at you, even though nothing really has changed. Like maybe you didn't even have another vision loss episode, but they do look, I know with myself, like if it's the daytime and I'm going out with Moses, we're going to go across the street to grab a cup of coffee. I'll just grab onto his arm and I don't take my dog or my cane. And then the next day I go in there, I might be by myself and I maybe take my dog. That's a different reaction. If I go back to that same, cafe and I have my cane, it's a different reaction. And I've even had the owners of the cafe say, Penn, I didn't realize how low your vision was until I saw you with a cane. So even with the dog, that represented more vision than with it's like the white cane is like the final stop or something. Yeah.
Right.
I'd go along with it too, because it's since husbands and wives never agree on a story, but in the background I could see how the cane was really hard for the reactions that Penn would get. But today I know if she's taking her cane, it's like a friggin' banner, and that we're going to go out and kick some butt if she takes the cane, and, because it's like, I'm blind and I'm proud.
Well, Penn, you said that it changed how people identified you or how they looked at you,
Yeah.
really, even though nothing had changed. And I think that's the hardest thing as a person with a low vision, making that decision to use a cane is you know that it's going to change people's perceptions. And our identity is so important to us. And before we start using a cane, we feel like we have some control of how we present ourselves to others. And once we accept that cane, there's a little bit of a loss there. And that's really what vision loss is all about. That's why it's called vision loss, because it really is a loss in so many different ways. And with RP, the loss just keeps coming and coming and coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I even find, even with family, siblings even, is if I'm using one of them as a sighted guide, we're just brother and sister or sister and sister. But the minute I grab my cane or the guide dog, it separates me from them. And they have told me that, like, I forget you can't see until you have your cane or your guide dog. And I don't know if that's a compliment or not. But even friends, right? It's, and I did, recently we were in Scotland and I was with my brother-in-law and we've known each other for decades. He's been part of my life for decades. And I did something really silly. All of us went out for pizza at this restaurant and it was to go. And so I put my cane against the wall and we were sitting there waiting till the pizza was done. And then after the pizzas came out, well, everybody over ordered like a big family does. And so there's stacks and stacks of food. And I said, well, here, I can help carry. And I grabbed one of the stacks of pizzas and I just followed them out to the van, got in the van, did not realize until we got home that I had left my cane, against the wall. And so the next day, well, they didn't open until later in the afternoon because I guess they don't serve pizza for breakfast. So we were downtown, this Scottish town, being tourists, and even moving around the Airbnb because it's not my house. I wasn't familiar. I was tripping and running into things. And the next morning, my brother-in-law, he took me to go get my cane, and he goes, "Don't take this the wrong way, but I had no idea how blind you were until you didn't have your cane." And I said, "Yeah, I don't know where I am. I'm not familiar. And yeah, really, Ty, I can't see." And so even for him, somebody who's known me for decades, without that tool, right, that it really showed him like, oh my gosh, you really can't see. And, but yeah.
And I know what it's like to be without your cane for a couple hours like that. And that's got to be a real struggle.
Especially in an unfamiliar, everything was unfamiliar.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations for surviving. Good job, Penn.
Thank you. And the moral of that story is do not leave your cane at pizza restaurants, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and humor to me is a big part of recovering from anything, and that's why you guys are talking about canes. I'm sitting here thinking, use the cane to mess with the sightlings. Is as they walk, as they jump out of your way, say, "Wow, nice shirt. I like that." Or I was teaching Penn how to do, because I'm love the old musicals from the 30s and 40s with Gene Kelly and all those guys. And so I was teaching Penn how to do cane tricks, where you can spin around and catch it.
Yeah, then you broke my cane, if you remember.
Then I broke her cane, but now she's got a good one.
Yeah.
And so we'll work on those lessons. But humor, for a segue, is always seems to be a part of your work with all of your books and your career and everything. Has that helped you through?
I think humor is just a great way to help anybody adapt to anything that they're dealing with. Yeah, thanks for mentioning humor. Just to tell you a little more about myself, after I retired from programming, I decided that I wanted to start writing science fiction short stories. And I did just recently have a short story accepted, and it's a humorous science fiction story, and it's going to be published at the Sci-Fi Lampoon online, sci-fi-lampoon.com. So I'm very pleased about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Someone else thinks I'm funny too. It's good.
But still not your daughter, huh?
Nope.
Wow.
Yeah, I think humor is important.
In addition to humor, I think that a big part of my life has always been to try to share my knowledge with anyone. And that goes back to the late 90s. I was still a programmer at that time, and I put together some early FAQs on the early fledgling internet at that point about how to do different programming techniques. That eventually grew into a programming book that I published in 2006, OpenGL Distilled with Addison Wesley. And that was what really got me kicked off in the tech writing field, which included some blogs at applevis.com. And then most recently, last summer, National Braille Press hired me as a freelance writer to update their Braille iPhone books for the iOS 18 release.
Awesome.
So I have done a lot of nonfiction writing, as well as the science fiction, which is my true love, science fiction. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Wow.
So Paul, I know you were, like you've mentioned, you were a software engineer, and you were really sort of ahead of the game. There weren't a lot of people who are blind and low vision in that field. How did you learn? Like, how did you adapt? Because there wasn't in the 90s doesn't seem that long ago to me, but it is. I'm just behind you as far as age goes, but it's so strange because I know the young blind and low vision people, it's hard for them to grasp that there weren't books, there weren't adaptations, and it was the blind and low vision people who came up with them. So how did you adapt? And then is that one of the reasons that you got involved in writing these texts, sort of these manuals and things for the next generation?
That's a great question, and we could probably talk for about 3 hours about this.
Excuse me.
But I graduated University of Michigan with not a computer science degree, strangely, but with a general studies, Bachelor of General Studies degree. And that was 1985. And if you'll remember 1985, if you're old enough to remember, all the offices were switching from typewriters to PCs.
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, so I was right there right in the middle of the microcomputer revolution, and that was my entry into the programming field. And at the time, it was green print on a black screen. It was nice and high contrast. Anybody could see it. My eyesight was good enough that I didn't need any accommodations. When the original Macintosh came out in 94, that was one of the first computers that was black on white.
I remember that, yeah.
Yep, and I could see that okay. And then Microsoft Windows followed suit, and I could see that okay too. It was a while longer that after that I started switching over to white on black so that I had high contrast colors. And then there were some early magnification tools that were built into Windows, and I was doing a lot of Unix programming, Linux at the time. That also had some magnification tools. Some of the programming work I was doing was very, very pixel specific. The way you checked whether the program was correct or not was by examining which pixels got colored certain ways. And the only way, even for sighted people, to verify that was with magnification tools. So I kind of felt like I was fitting in with my more or less normally sighted sighty associates. But I did start to depend increasingly on magnification and high contrast. I was a Zoom text user in the early 2000s, constantly using that to help me find the mouse pointer, to invert the colors or go back and forth between inverted and not inverted, depending on what I was looking at, to quickly zoom in with control scroll wheel on the mouse. So when did I switch over to screen readers? That was more about 2013, 2014, and I started learning Braille at the same time. And that was about the time I was self-employed as a programmer then, and my last contract had ran out. So I recognized that I needed to spend a lot of time coming up to speed on these technologies, and I didn't necessarily have the time to go drum up new business, especially if I was going to walk into a client situation as vision impaired as I was. I didn't see that as a path to success. So it was at that point that I just kind of threw in the towel and said, okay, I'm well into the legal definition of blindness according to Health and Human.
Yes.
When I applied for SSDI, this is pretty funny. And of course, the fact that I provide them with 20 years of visual field tests documenting my vision loss means nothing to them. Right. Right?
Yeah, of course.
I have to go in and see one of their doctors.
Yes.
All right. So I went in and saw one of their doctors, and at the conclusion of the exam, he says to me, "It's amazing you've worked for as long as you have."
Which is kind of good. But
It is, but really, to me, it's natural. Every incremental bit of vision loss is one little incremental adaptation that I find a way to work around. It's problem solving, right?
Yeah.
And you're a pot in boiling water, and you just keep finding ways to remain comfortable and remain productive.
Right.
And
we're all
and you
frogs.
don't even know that you're as blind as you are until the SSDI ophthalmologist tells you something like that.
Wow.
Man, what a fun episode. This is Jonathan Price, your podcast producer. Thank you so much for listening to part 1 with Paul Martz, and you're going to want to check out part 2 because Paul's going to get more into the topics of the Rubik Cube itself and how it affects his life and just the amazing things that he's able to do with cubing and speed cubing and the community surrounding it. But check out his episode with Blind Level Tech as well. He did an amazing job with Evan Starnes, and you're going to want to check that out. Keep in mind, we've got September 13th coming up. It's going to be a fantastic hike. Save it on your calendars. Get registered, aftersight.org/hike, and we're going to have such an amazing time. All right, on behalf of Penn Street, Moses Street, and the Aftersight team, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. It's good for your soul.